so she gave me credit for having a go.
That's good.
And I see Harper's waving. Hopefully later on, when she's older, she'll be able to listen to that. But I really enjoyed that story. What other? Another question, Al.
I had a couple more stories. I'll just talk about one at a time.
Yeah.
So the next one is, I've never heard this story, but apparently you have a good mafia story.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, what happened, this is in Boston. I got a job at Gray Lines Bus and Truck Company, and I tried to get job. I was in nuclear engineering school, and it's very hard to get a job as an engineer unless you graduate. So I couldn't get a job. It was 1969. And then somebody said, act stupid. So I did, and I got the job the next day in Gray Lines as a bookkeeper. And I read the book about bookkeeping the night before, because I always took college preparatory courses, and bookkeeping is not a college preparatory class. So I went in there as a bookkeeper, and in a couple of weeks I became the accountant for a company called Gray Lines. I had a very good boss. As a matter of fact, the first week I said, I'm very quiet. My personality is not really quiet. I'm really not smart. I just made it through high school. So that week I was hired on a Tuesday. Friday we went to the Howard Johnson's, which is very close to where the business was. And there was like 6 women, my boss who's David, a man, and myself. So at the end of the meal, he gave me all the money, the tips and everything to pay for the meal. And I, people know who I am, so what I did is I went double or nothing on the tip with the waiter. We bucked up, like with your fingers like this, 2 to 1, and I think it was odds 1, and I won, so I kept the tip. Not knowing it, my boss was watching me. So when I came back to work, we walked back to work. At the end of the day, he did comment. He said, Dan, you're full of crap. And he said, I saw the way you hustled that waiter. Anyway, to continue with my story, I got a call from a guy, a worker, and he called me up about 4:30 on a Thursday. And the checks came out every week. And he called and said he wants to give the check to his mother. And I said, I can't do that. He said, well, I really want to get the check. He said, I can't do it. And that was the end of the conversation. Next morning, I came in and I found he was shot 6 times in the head. I then talked to my boss about it, and said, there's nothing we can do. A week later or so, I'm in my office. There's had 6 women are in the office. I'm in the back. I'm not in an office. I'm right next to my boss's office, who's a controller. And this guy comes in. It's in the end of July, very hot day, and he's got a heavy suit on. So not a big guy, but very tough looking. And he comes in and he looks at me and he said, "Who's the boss?" And I said, "Who are you?" He says, "That's not important. Who's the boss?" I said, "It's David Drew. He's the controller, but right now he has a sign, please not disturb." He said, "Thank you," and he goes out over there, opens the door, and he's in there for a half hour. As he's leaving, my boss is with him, and they're right next to me, and he takes his fingers and he puts it on my boss's chin, and he said, "You're a good boy," and he leaves. And I said, Dave, and Dave and I are pretty close, and I said, "Dave, what's going on?" Dave didn't say a word. The next week or so, same thing. The guy comes in, hot day, heavy suit, and he says to me, "Is he in?" I said, "Yeah," but he said, "There's a do not disturb sign there." He says, "Thank you." He goes in again. He doesn't even knock, he just opens the door. And he comes in, and a half hour later, the same stuff. He's leaving, the same stuff with the little chin. He says, "You're a good boy," and he leaves. About a week later, I talked, his name is David Drew, is my boss, and I said, "David, what happened?" Dave made a comment to me about what happened. The guy came in, he says, "I'm really concerned about this guy that got shot and killed, we're worried about, this first time he came twice. He says he's worried about whether he'll get a pension. And David said, are you family? And he took out his gun. He said, yeah, we're family. And then David, I see your family. So he went to the records and he said, I don't think it's going to work. He said, I'm really worried, Dave, I don't know what we're going to do. And Dave said, what do you mean? He said, what are we going to do with him? Dave said, well, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. And he said, David, I'm worried about you and your family. I'm worried about your mother in Seattle, worried about your brother in Georgia, you got a sister over there. He said, we're all worried about your family. Especially your mother takes a walk at 2 o'clock to 2:30. We want to make sure that she can take walks for many years to come. And your brother has a job driving a truck. We're worried that he stays on the road. And then your sister, we're worried about what goes on with her life, with her daughter. Her daughter goes to school in Vermont. We're worried that things are going to be okay with her. We want to protect your family. What can we do to keep your family together and be healthy? And Dave said, that's unbelievable. He said, I know, but we're here to help. Okay. Anything we can do to help you, that's our job. And so Dave says, let me think about it. I said, good, I'll be back next week. Next week, Dave changed the numbers. Okay. And the bottom line, I don't know what you can do yet. It comes to the mafia, nothing you can do. But this guy, and Dave telling me this guy was from the mafia. And that was a very interesting story. But I want to go back to the company again. When I was first hired, I was hired as a bookkeeper, and his name was Steve Kaplan, was the senior vice president. He was a young guy, and he came to me and he said, your name, Barry? He said, yes, sir. He said, you have 2 jobs here. To put ink in the Xerox, this is 1969. You have 2 jobs, to put ink in the Xerox machine and to put water in the water bubbler. And he said, those are your most important tasks. I said, right. By the way, Mr. Berry, what's your first name? I said, to you, it's Mr. Now, I want you to understand, he wasn't my boss. He was my boss's boss. Okay? He looked at me and he sort of couldn't believe that I said that to him. And he said, I didn't quite hear what you said. He said, when you talk to me, it's Mr. Okay, he went to the back, he's telling my boss, and he found out my name is Dan. Your name is Dan. I said, please call me Mr. And about a week or 2 later, a guy named was Cunningham. He was the chief steward in the union, and they wanted me to take 3 hours off his pay. Well, I'm not an idiot. So I went to Cunningham. I said, Mr. Cunningham, I'm taking 3 hours off your pay. And he said to me, what arm do you use less? The left or right? He said, so I said, I use my left arm less because that's the one I'm going to break. And I said, well, before you break it, would you like to know who told me to do it? He said, yeah, I can't tell you, but I was looking at Steve Kaplan's office, so they almost had a strike. Everything was on an uproar for 3 hours. They calmed everything down. The president came, and of course, no hours were taken out. About a week later, the president and Steve Kaplan came to my desk, and they said, how did Cunningham find out about it? I said, I told him. How come? How come? You guys almost had a strike. That was me. I would have had my arm broken. So that's what happened there. I think as far as stories go, I think what Alex is the best one about Alex was he was in camp, and he was, how old were you, 10, 9? At the Y.
At the YMCA
picking
camp.
you up. What?
Yeah, that was in Lynchburg.
Yeah, right.
So I must have been,